Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's a good day, and we're back here with Mentify to Z and One Emotion Deep. And today we're going to talk about boundaries, and we think this is a good follow-up episode from our previous episode of
learning imposter syndrome.
Exactly, because boundaries is one of the most important things that we need to have in order to be able to relate with others, with ourselves, but also achieve our goals. So, Felix, what are boundaries to you?
Well, boundaries are a set of rules that we keep to ourselves so that we can set a different line that separates you from what other external forces that comes to you, whatever that is going to be bothering you, whatever that is going to disturb your values, whatever that is going to take you out of your safety, comfort, because kuna nyakati watu wanakuja na kukusukuma to the point that unaona kabisa what you're going to do, it's not what you value, it's not, unaona kabisa this is not me. So setting boundaries is letting people kwamba kuna vitu ambavyo hivi ninaweza kuvifanya, but ukifika hapa siwezi kufanya. So this is my boundary. So whatever you do, don't do this because I will not go beyond this. So those are boundaries. So they say boundaries are rules or limits that someone establishes to protect themselves and their well-being and around others. Sometimes we identify what we express in front of others, sometimes we don't. Because when you put that boundary, it tells who is Jacqueline or who is Felix. Kwa mimi nikienda kuongea na Jackie, I know kabisa this is how I'm supposed to talk to Jackie. But if I go in a different way, nikienda kwa njia ambayo najua Jackie hapendi kinawaka. Mambo hayatueleweka. So those are boundaries. We set limits, we set rules that protect us.
So, tunaweza kusema mipaka, boundaries, ni it's just not for us. It's not just for our own safety, it's also for the safety of others. Because yes. Again, if a person approaches you in a way that, for whatever reason, may make you do out of ordinary things, for instance, there are people, if you talk to them to a certain way, automatically it's a trigger and they would get violent.
Yes.
So if you know that this is a boundary for that person, obviously there's a way you would always go to them.
Yes.
So boundaries do keep us safe. Now, while we're still at the definition, give me an example of a real life boundary that you have established and people know about you.
For me, I'll give an example ya kazini. You can do anything, but huwezi kunishautia.
Oh.
Yani, you can be stressed, you can be under a lot of stress, lakini when you want to talk to me, usinishautia. That's like the boundary I've kept kwa sababu we have to respect other people's well-being. You can't be angry, and if you cannot control your anger, huwezi kwenda kumshautia mtu mwingine just because you can't control your own emotions. So I've kept that boundary for me, myself kwanza, before any other, because it's something that I don't want to do to other people, so I don't want other people to do it to me. So bata Biblia inasema, don't do to others what you don't want to be done to. So that's one of the real life example that I have.
Interesting.
What is it?
Okay, my example of a boundary. Let's see. I have a general life boundary whereby, for people who do not know me, like mtu mpya akija kuni approach, and this can be a good or bad boundary, but it works for me. And I'll give it as an example. The other time I was talking to a friend, and another friend told me that I'm very difficult to get used to. Well, I don't
What
think
is that difficult to?
as in, until you become my friend, Felix, there's somewhat of an effort that happens. Now, I don't know if you can attest for that. But then and this is a good friend that tumesoma wote kuanzia chuo, so I did not expect that to come from her. And her friends keep asking her, how did you get used to Jackie? And I'm like, what? So I started to ask some of my close friends that I know, they know me to some extent. And like, I think there was not much of a difficulty into getting to know me. This is where I got surprised. And that's when I understood that, okay, I probably have this as a boundary. So one friend gave me this analogy that if a person sees me from afar, it's like something that is nice in a translucent, in a glass. So you can see and you're like, oh, that's nice, that's approachable, that's neat. But then the minute they get closer, because with a glass, you just see through. Sometimes it's easy to miss that there's a glass between me and the other person. So because it's a transparent glass, it's easy to, you're like, let me go to that, I'm going to reach it. And then you find that when you reach closer, then you meet the glass with me.
Yeah, so like a dome.
Yes. So, and to crack the glass, it's like first you have to be persistent, and then there is sort of like a password of a way that you have to deal with me in order for you to get through. And he says sometimes you might get through the glass and you get to the other side and you find yourself like, this is not for me. So you come out yourself. So I have this life boundary, and when they explained it to me like that, I was like, oh wow, that is a good description of me. And I translate that same boundary to everyone else, so as they know, okay, na Jackie tunaendaje. And that goes to my friends, it goes to my family members, it goes to work, it goes in any space that I'm in. There's this boundary where, okay, I'm open, but I will not let you, like there's a limit to, I don't know you like that. So like you don't get to be like that with me until we're like that.
Yeah, and I'm sure that gives you freedom.
Of course. Oh my God. Yeah, it makes me authentic.
Yeah, because now that's one of the things. When you set boundaries, you have time to become your own. You don't expect people to react differently to you because you already know your boundaries.
Yeah.
So what are the types of boundaries?
Okay. There are several types of boundaries. The emotional boundaries, the geographical boundaries, which is what I think that is one of the, no one needs to explain. This is my boundary. Kiwanja changu kinaanzia hapa, kinaishia hapa. Nyumba yangu inaanzia hapa mpaka hapa.
Yes.
Frame yangu ni hii mpaka hii. Those are geographical. Tanzania ina square meter kadhaa. That is geographical boundaries. There is mental boundaries.
Yeah.
Which can be developed, but sometimes they can also be experiential.
Yeah.
You experience something and then you develop a boundary.
Yeah.
And then there are sexual boundaries, there are spiritual boundaries, the emotional boundary. Technically, there's a boundary in everything.
Yes, and it's good. If you want to become principled, you have to have boundaries.
I read somewhere, and this was very interesting. I mean, it is true, but I had never thought about it. And it says that this world, the first person who created boundaries is God himself, which is why there is a definition of good and evil. And even what we call suffering, and not to get into the other side of spiritual, but what we call suffering was a boundary broken. Do not eat the fruit of good and evil. Do not eat the fruit of knowledge. So that was a boundary that, I mean, it's very profound. I read that and I was like, okay. So like the boundary was, do this to be side. But then when that boundary was broken, there was a consequence. And that is what boundaries does. I was like, this is very interesting. But then back to the types of boundaries. Back to the type of boundaries. So, yeah, there are several. I saw the skin boundaries. Skin boundaries. And a person said, you know how people say, you get under my skin?
Yeah.
What is that? What,
Don't get under my
yes,
skin.
you are getting under my skin.
You're violating my boundaries.
Breaking. Yes, something you're breaking under me that's making me uncomfortable. That's making me off my everyday normal functioning. And I mean, somebody has to break that over and over again for it to be, you're getting under my skin. Other boundaries are boundaries from other people.
Yeah.
Other people can also be bound, like they can have their own boundaries. Financial boundaries. The point we're making here is you can put a boundary in each and any thing in your life, and you can put a boundary on that as a guidance for you to propel forward whatever you need to do. Kwa mipaka ni muhimu kwa ajili ya kwako wewe, lakini kwa ajili pia watu wengine. Kwa hiyo wewe mpaka wako ni nini? Au ni kitu gani kina mipaka? You're the one to define that, and then you have, according to your values, you define that boundary to be your boundary. And then you have to explain, of course, to whoever will be interacting with you katika huo mpaka.
Yeah, it's good that you talked about value. Unajua hili kutengeneza boundary that unajua boundaries zinaweza ziko kwenye kila kitu.
Yes.
But you need to create a healthy boundaries.
Yes.
Boundaries that work for you.
Yes.
Positively.
Yes.
Na in order for you to be able to do that, lazima ujijue wewe mwenyewe vizuri.
Sana.
So self-awareness ni jambo kubwa sana wakati unataka kutengeneza hizi self-boundaries, because if you don't know yourself very well, you will not be able to create boundaries that work for you. So before wewe kwanza kutengeneza mipaka yako, kwamba mipaka yako wewe ni nini, jiulize tu hapo ulipo sasa hivi. Okay, mimi Felix, mipaka yangu ni nini? Au mipaka yangu ni ipi?
Katika vitu mbalimbali, katika familia, katika kazi, katika wiki,
hata spiritual, in anything you do.
Unajua wakati nafikiria kuhusu boundaries, nikafikiria leo. We were sharing earlier that today was one of those days when you woke up but you not get your message and that you click. And I'm thinking if I was doing this alone, I would have probably said, you know what, I'm going to do it tomorrow.
Yes.
But at the same time, you were first, just your presence, first it was a boundary, but second it made me think, I will not make laziness go beyond the boundary of doing something that I need to do right now. Because that is breaking. That is breaking kitu ambacho natakiwa kukifanya sasa hivi. So just hayo mazingira ni kwamba boundary yangu ni mimi kuwepo kufanya kile nimesema nataka kufanya. That is a boundary.
Do not break your promise.
Yes.
Wow.
And I mean that is something that you would not even see and would not even
think about.
Yes, you would not even think about it. But every time you do something that you promised yourself to do and not doing, you broke a boundary.
Yeah, there's something I wrote. Emotional boundaries differentiate your feelings from other people. So you're accountable for your own feelings, but not responsible for other people's feelings. You can't be accountable for other people's. I can't be accountable for how you feel.
Definitely.
And if I put boundaries that I am responsible for how I feel, so that's my own boundary, and I will not violate it.
Yes.
That's a good one.
Which kuna chronic cases of procrastination.
Yeah.
that is breaching yourself, breaching boundaries over and over and over and over again, until, of course, it causes you, because again, the resignation comes with its own problems, where you're like, okay, now I'm not going to do it anymore. And then you start to stack other negative things upon it.
Yeah, but despite all the types of boundaries you mentioned, we are going to be focusing on one specifically, mental and emotional boundaries. Because we talked about mental health. Mental health ni kitu gani? Afya yetu ya akili. Ili sisi kuweza kuprotect and to create a healthy mental well-being. Ni boundaries zipi tunatakiwa kuzitengeneza? Tunapoongelea on feelings, should my emotions be affecting you? Or should I be able to control my own emotions? I've just said that emotional well-being, it's something that you should be accountable for as a person. So you can't complain to other people for how you react. Because how I react, it's I decide how to react. Siwezi nikaja kwako Jackie nikaanza kukulalamikia kwamba wewe umesababisha mimi niweze kufeel the way I feel. Sijachukua emotions zako, remember, those comes from you, with how you react to certain situations. So creating mental and well-being, creating mental boundaries protects you from anxiety, protects you from stress, protects you from depression. Because if you don't know what are the things you're willing to take in, and what are the things that you're not willing to take in, what are the things you're willing to let go, and what are the things you're not willing to let go. If you don't know those sets of boundaries you're creating for yourself, you'll be accumulating everything. Na pale unakuta mtu mwisho wa siku anakuwa overwhelmed, kwa sababu tunapokuwa na a lot of emotions running through us, it blocks the way we think. Ndio unakuta mtu anaweza kufanya jambo la ajabu sana, ukashangaa imekwaje ukafanya hivi. Juzi tu tumepata mfano kuna MC Joel ameoa na watu wanasema ni msongo wa mawazo. May his soul rest in eternal peace. Lakini we don't want kufika huko. Watu wanasema ni msongo wa mawazo sasa hivi, lakini when he was alive, what did we do? Did we ask?
Did you even notice?
Did you even notice? So sisi tunapojiwekea hizi healthy mental boundaries ni kwa ajili ya kujiprotect sisi na zile hali zote ambazo zinaweza kuja kutusababishia sisi kufika kwenye hali ambayo we can't even think what is good and what is bad. Looking at that point ni hali mbaya sana. So when we're creating our emotional or mental boundaries, we need to know what works for us. You need to know who is Felix. What is Felix? What am I capable of? And what am I not capable of? Kuna vitu ambavyo ukitaka kumwambia Felix afanye vitu fulani, you know kwamba I know Felix, he will not do this. So you already know their boundaries. Ukitaka kumwambia Jackie, bwana kuna jambo fulani nataka unisaidie kufanya, unaanza kufikiria kwanza, will she do it? Does this resonate with her values?
Yes. I think it's a very good thing. It's called priorities.
Yes.
Priorities and values, it falls under those categories. Na kinachosaidia zaidi pia ni kwamba ukiwa like when your boundaries are very clear, it's easy to differentiate yourself. Mtu atajua ikiwa nataka kazi fulani ifanyike, it's automatically easy for somebody to think of Jackie, you know what? I have 1, 2, 3. Najua unaweza kufanya hii. Na saa nyingine inawezekana pia sio kwa sababu umewahi kufanya hicho kitu. Mimi kuna gigs nimepewa not because I've done it before, but it's because people know who I am as an individual, what I stand for. So if they wakinipa hiyo kazi, wanajua itakamilika kwa sababu of who Jackie is, of where the boundaries are, and how best they can present themselves. Kitu kama hicho ni kitu ambacho somebody cannot come to you, or somebody cannot. I'll give another live example. Somebody offered to assist kunisaidia kazi fulani, even when they knew that I would not be able to pay them immediately. And that moves me ahead kwenye kazi kwenye jambo ninalolitaka kulifanya. But the boundary I established was siwezi nikakutapeli. Mimi sio tapeli. That's a boundary. Na mtu yoyote ambaye kwangu atakuwa tapeli kwangu, that's a boundary. I don't deal with you. So knowing that, tayari automatically, okay, you know what, in the bigger picture, wote tutabenefit kwenye hii kazi. Sasa hivi huwezi kunilipa, lakini najua utanilipa. Something of mine has gone forward. Just because you have established yourself as a certain type of people. And boundaries means kuna kitu kimoja you have to forgo against the other.
And you know what makes me think? Sometimes we have boundaries that we don't even know that we've kept.
Yes.
It's because we have communicated our value clear enough for people to know, I can't do this, it will violate somebody else's value.
It's not just communicating, it's communicating and living your values.
Yes.
Because there's a lot of good talk out there. And then mtu anaongea kimoja, then anaishi kitu kingine.
Live your word.
Live your values. And automatically it's inakufanya unakuwa you're identified like okay.
So I challenge you, our listeners, uambie wewe mipaka yako ni ipi?
Au uwaze wewe mipaka yako kama hauna mipaka. Yes, like anza kuestablish mpaka wako ni nini. Kuna mfano mwingine which is very interesting actually. It's from the Bible. The story of a good Samaritan. Mtu amepita akamwona mtu ameumizwa, wakapita watu wawili wa kwanza, then akapita a good Samaritan. Akaenda akamsaidia, then akaenda kwa innkeeper akamwambia naomba mgonjwa wangu hapa mtende. Naenda nikirudi nitalipa. And then this is the other perspective that I read in a book the other time. And this person brought a perspective and I was like, oh wow. So akasema, let us imagine yule mtu aliyeumizwa aliamka. And then akasema, why are you leaving me? Mimi nimeumia, unanitend, hata nikiamka hapa nitaongea na nani? Like akamwekea all this, akastack all this thing and say, let's imagine that. And then the Samaritan was like, lakini nimsaidia na mwacha hivi. Kumbuka yeye alikuwa anaenda zake kwenye biashara Jerusalem. Alikuwa anatoka Jerusalem kwenda Damascus. But again alikuwa anaenda kufanya biashara alipokuwa anaenda. So imagine akasema, okay, afu ni kweli. Meanwhile, there is a commitment kule. So akabaki na huyu, akawa na mtend nini tuseme zikapita siku 3. Zikapita siku 3. Obviously huyu yuko vizuri na yuko comfortable and all that. Akarudi wale wanaofanya nao biashara kule akamwambia okay, sisi tumekaa siku 3 tukaona okay, hauji. So we have done business with another person. And then anarudi huku anamwambia look at what you have done for me, umenifanya nimekosa biashara yangu na nini. But then and there, this person lived their boundaries. Moja, kumsaidia mtu ambaye amepata shida. 2, amekumbuka mimi nina commitment. Naenda kuendelea na commitment yangu because that is also important. So he did not let this huyu mgonjwa aliyekutana naye ambaye mwanzoni alikuwa hayupo kwenye schedule yake akamstopisha mambo aliyokuwa anatakiwa kufanya. And then I was like, interesting. And like very interesting perspective. And this is how we break boundaries all the time, especially when it comes to family and friends. Even workspaces. You know how uko kazini, una kazi yako ya kufanya tayari, but you'd have kuna wale watu ambao they just don't work and they use other people for their own work. So, and imagine this person who does this ni manager. So, anaweza kumuoda anyone. without considering kwamba okay, labda ana kazi nyingine. Na inawezekana wewe ni aina hii ya mfanyakazi au wewe ni aina hii ya boss. So you like on one side you don't have boundaries to other people's work, and then on the other side when a person does not have boundaries, it means they will take anything. And then in the end of the day, it affects your overall quality ya kazi yako, because you're taking a little from this person, a little from that person, and then unakuta in the end of the day, you're not delivering the best in any. But it's simply a lack of boundary. Tuje kwenye marafiki. Unakuja wewe umepanga timetable zako, and then rafiki anatoka huko alikotoka na shida zake 800. Jamani twende nisindikize sijui nini, and then you're like, no, I can't do this, and they start whining.
Really? You? Of all people?
Yes. Anakublame, and then you're like, okay, I don't want noise. Wewe labda ni quiet person, sitaki tugombane, so let me just let it go. Unaendelea. You've broken your boundary. The problem with breaking boundaries over time you become resentful.
Yes.
Ndo hapo sasa inakuja where our mental and emotional health becomes affected. Because again, wewe mwenyewe umejiviolate, lakini pia umeruhusu watu wengine wakufanya. And then now, of course, it stacks into other things.
Yes, and unajua most of the times you don't take it that way.
Yes.
Unaona Jackie ameniomba hivi, I have to do this, I can do this another time.
Yes.
The moment you continue allowing that to happen to you, it becomes your behavior. So mtu mwingine akija kwambia naomba kitu fulani, if you have a very important thing, utaacha. Utaenda kufanya just because mtu fulani ameniambia nifanye kitu fulani. So you start taking directives from other people more than controlling what you've planned for yourself. You don't respect your boundaries more, you respect other people's boundaries.
Exactly. Because if it's not your boundaries, somebody else's
boundary, yes. Yeah. So on that note, Jackie, before we go to as we're compiling up, let me ask this question: how do we deal when our boundaries are violated?
I think when you say it kuhusiana na self-aware, you have to know that my boundary is broken right now. And you need to be able to speak up. I think that is very important. And when you become self-aware, it's when you will know kwamba this is for me and this is not for me, or this is not for me right now.
Time bound.
Yes, time boundary, exactly. So when my boundary is violated, usually I'm not afraid to say, not today. Is it urgent? Is it mine? Because sometimes kwa mfano workspaces, mtu anaweza kukwambia kitu akifokana ku pressure, kumbe it's not supposed, yani sio kazi yako. Pia kwenye familia, hata kwa marafiki. And I think, okay, I'll have to ask my friends again, get feedback for, to get to know yourself, get feedback from your friends and those who are close to you, because they'll give you a highlight of who you are. So, like, for me naongea, I have a boundary to myself mostly, kwamba mi sitapata stress kwa ajili yako. Sitapata stress kwa sababu ya shida yako, but
you have to become accountable for your own feelings, for your own
yes. So I'm big at that, and that is how I deal with boundaries. Na kama it's a boundary that you cannot avoid, because sometimes it's a breached boundary, tuseme labda na mzazi. You don't immediately talk back to them. Au hata ni rafiki, au hata ni bosi. So if it's something I need to deal with, I will deal with it kwa capacity yangu. And that will be full stop. Baada ya capacity yangu, I do not expect you to shout at me. I do not expect you to blame me. I do not expect you to complain. And when you do that, I will picture paint it for you. Kwa sababu wewe kuniambia mfano labda unataka kitu fulani sasa hivi, you did not even inquire, can I do it right now? So if I went out of my way
to do it for you,
the best you can do is ask me, can you do the rest of it?
Yeah.
So like for me, I'm very, what is the word? I'm very intentional. I'm very intentional on how I deal with my boundaries with people, and I communicate. If it's something I cannot deal with it, I walk away so as it doesn't become something else. Kwa sababu kuna saa nyingine boundary yako imekuwa broken, unaona hasira hii hapa. Yani unaona hasira hii hapa, like oh my god, I am breaking, like I'm going to explode. So I would walk away, or I would keep quiet. Sometimes boundary inaweza kuwa broken through text. Nitaacha sitajibu, alafu nitakuja baadaye. But all that is structured within, I have done my work with self-awareness. What are my triggers? What works, what doesn't work? And sometimes if I need to get back to a person, nitakutafuta Felix. Yani Felix, kuna mtu. And then I would just release that, and then I would go back.
Yeah, because you can stack it up for somebody else's.
And sometimes you just need another perspective pia. Inawezekana ni boundary kweli imevunjika, ila kuna mtu anakuambia, unajua nini? Huyo ni ndugu yako. Kimsaidia hivi na hivi na hivi na hivi, utapata hichi na hichi na hichi na hichi. Alafu long run itakuwa ni hiki na hiki na hiki na hiki. And then it's something you've never thought about, and you're like,
relationship boundaries.
Relationship boundaries. So I mean, this can go in any direction literally. But kikubwa ni wewe kujifahamu, ni wewe kujiregulate, ni wewe kujua kipi ni priority kwako, important kwako, ili uweze kucommunicate vizuri, lakini uweze kuwa na healthy relationships na kuwa na healthy boundaries, of course.
Yeah, and one more thing ya kufungia, we need to know when to say yes and when to say no. They call it a boundary report. Because if you don't know how to say no bila kuwa guilty, yani kumwambia mtu bwana hili jambo sio la kwangu, na bila kuwa na ile kujisikia vibaya, nimemwambiaje hapana, sitajisikia.
And sometimes it's fine, unaweza ukajisikia vibaya. Mimi sometimes nafanya kitu kweli najisikia vibaya, nikitoka hapo nampigia Felix, naambia sasa Felix, wewe nini? Yani nimetoka kumwambia babangu hapa hivi na hivi na hivi, kiukweli it is hurting me, lakini I need to do this because it's necessary for both of us at this point. So, and finding a support group,
a supporting system.
Yes, it's very important.
So guys, najua mna maswali mengi sana.
Shoot them.
Kwamba boundaries zangu ni zipi? Is this what I have? Is it a boundary or not? Please talk to us. Let us know your thoughts through our social media. Instagram at MentifyTZ and One Emotions Deep. But you can still find us on Twitter, MentifyTZ, TikTok, MentifyTZ. And TikTok, One Emotions Deep as well. So karibuni sana. Let us know what are your boundaries. Yake ameongelea boundaries zake hapa kwa kirefu na ametoa mifano ya Biblia. So let's hear your boundaries. Thank you guys, until the next one.
Bye.
Bye bye.